If your homeschool feels harder than it should, let me tell you a little secret. It's not the curriculum. If you have felt unmotivated, scattered, and just strangely disconnected, it's probably not laziness. It's actually input overload. Too many opinions, too many reels, too many strangers telling you how to homeschool your kids. I don't count, of course. We know each other really well at this point. Mama, here's the problem. Your brain is probably just jammed. Before we really dive into this topic, I want to tell you about my homeschool masterclass. It's the framework that I wish that I had 18 years ago when everything felt like it was falling apart. I describe a bunch of the things that gets us into this mess and how I eventually figured out how to get out of this mess. So if you feel like you are still struggling, still scrambling, I would invite you to watch that. It is totally free. The link for that is in the description below. Now, let's talk about how to unrot your homeschool mom brain before it's too late. What brain rot looks like in a homeschool. So let's talk about some of the symptoms of brain rot. You may have heard this term on social media, but essentially it's when you are just basically taken over by your feed. Okay. Brain rot really happens when you outsource your own thinking to the social media feed, whether that be Instagram or TikTok or YouTube or Facebook. You're basically not even choosing in which direction you're going. So you're not using it as a search engine. You are just scrolling, and whatever pops up, that's what you're choosing to think about at that moment. And it's really not a choice. It's, it's the algorithm thinking for you. So here are some homeschool specific symptoms of brain rot. If you have chronic curriculum FOMO, which stands for fear of missing out, then you're probably being served curriculum review after curriculum review. I believe it's settled down a little bit because, now that we're in October, the homeschool year is well on its way. But this was really bad during the summertime because, all of the homeschool influencers were trying to get their choices in front of you so that basically they could get a sales commission off of it. So another symptom is if you are multitasking constantly. So what this looks like is you're listening to podcasts while you're doing, any sort of work like dishes or laundry or even grading tests, which I would definitely not recommend. You need to be focused on the actual thing that you're grading. Sending off text messages or DMs in between lessons or while your children are working on a worksheet. And of course, YouTube is always humming in the background. Another symptom is you could be feeling brain fog by noon, even if you had a good night's sleep, or if your sleep was pushed off by an extra hour because you made the mistake of picking up your phone after you set your alarm for the next morning. This has happened to me before. I cannot stand it when it happens. You have to think to yourself, would I have been better off spending an hour reading a really good book? The answer is yes. Yes, you most certainly would have. Another symptom is that you have no real convictions of your own. You just have borrowed opinions. So I like to call these my soapbox issues. You will know if you have any of these soapbox issues by if you can just immediately basically go on a rant about a subject. So I think it's pretty obvious. The subject that I go off on rants about is education, specifically homeschool education. But I actually have several other soapbox issues that if somebody brings it up, well, let's just say they better be in a comfortable chair because I have some things to say. So do you have any of these soapbox issues yourself? And they don't have to be serious. That's the thing. I have some extraordinarily random soapbox issues, but are any of these opinions that just really get you, jazzed up and not necessarily in defense mode, but in, oh, let me tell you something. That's when you know that you have convictions of your own. So if you feel like you don't have any of those anymore, like you just have borrowed opinions, that's another symptom of brain rot. So another symptom is decision paralysis. Which checklist should I use? Which curriculum should I use? Which schedule should I use? What should I wear in the morning? If you just have trouble making decisions in general, because there are just so many decisions in front of you, that's another symptom of brain rot. So here's the thing that I want you to remember. Your thoughts are not truly yours if they never get quiet. Now, what do I mean by that? What I mean is, if you're not the one actually making the decisions about your homeschool, then your homeschool is not really yours. It's really just a copy paste of somebody else's. You have your own unique children, you have your own unique personality, and you have your own unique situation. So you can't expect that just trying to copy paste someone else's homeschool and someone else's schedule, someone else's curriculum choices, etc., are just going to work as fantastically for you as they do for the influencer that you're watching. And I know that we all know this on some level, but you have to understand that the life that these influencers are showing to you, you watch all these day in the life videos, the life that they are showing you is highly curated. If you're only ever seeing the good, then we all know this, but do you really, really know this? So making a decision based off of how you see another influencer presenting what she is doing is just not going to translate the same in your own home. Let's go ahead and talk now about the rot loop. So this is what I mean by the rot loop. You're going to start with want, then you're going to transition into dabble. Then you're going to miss a day. Then you're going to feel guilt. Then you're going to start a new plan, and then you're going to repeat the whole thing over again. So if this cycle sounds familiar to you, it's because it is. This cycle is one that so many homeschool moms are trapped in. And if you're not trapped in it now, that is fantastic. But you probably have been before, and you might be in the future if you don't guard against it. So you find yourself wanting to do better. So you try something new, but you can only hold on to that momentum for so long. So then you miss a day. Then you start to feel guilt and you start to say, maybe I'm just not cut out for this anyway. But then your social media feed pops up and you see something new. And so you decide to try it and the whole cycle starts over again. Social media rewards novelty. They punish mastery. Okay? Because here's the thing. If you are an accomplished homeschool mom who feels confident in her choices and her children are thriving, what do you need social media for? This is the point that I really want you to get to. That point where you just don't need the social media anymore because you are doing so well. You have dug in your heels. You have continued to work the plan even on the hardest days, and your children are thriving because of it. And all of that is giving you more and more confidence to continue on day after day. That is the loop that I actually want you to be in. The rot loop, though, really exhausts your mind. But worse than that, it teaches your children instability. Identity shift. I want you going from consumer to headmistress. So from now on, instead of looking for the next homeschool hack to make your homeschool days easier, which they do not exist. Homeschool days are hard. They are just hard. You have to get stronger. You cannot make it easier. What I need for you to do is start taking authority over your inputs. What do I mean by that? I mean, start being an extremely discerning consumer. You're only going to be putting things into your brain through your eyes that help you get closer to that goal. They need to inspire you to continue working the plan that you're already working. Now, I have found that the best way to do this is through reading books on knowledge-based education, because that is what I'm after in my homeschool. I am working so hard to do the best job that I can to make sure that my children are given a solid education. So reading the books that are going to continue to inspire me about the results of a knowledge-based education, that is going to be what keeps me motivated on the days when it feels like everything's falling apart. And let me just be honest with you. I have not arrived. This whole last week has felt a little bit like a dumpster fire. There's been one thing after another that just, just like, how when, if you have a lot of kids, one child will get an injury and then there's at least 2 or 3 more injuries that follow quickly thereafter, or the same thing with illness. That's kind of the week that we're having right now. The stuff, just weird stuff just keeps popping off that is throwing me off and it's making me tired. So what am I making sure to do? I am making sure to continue reading those books that inspire me and help me remember why I'm doing all of this in the first place. I'm not turning to Instagram, because when you're having one of those weeks where things are just falling apart, those are the weeks that you are most vulnerable. Okay. So the worst thing that I could do this week when things are a little bit crazy is turn to Instagram, because I could fall prey to a new idea that I think I might need to try out. And I want you to hear my heart here. I am not calling Instagram influencers, homeschool influencers, predators. Okay. I'm not doing that. That's not what I'm saying here. But we do need to realize that when things are going a little bit sideways, we are more vulnerable. We are more vulnerable to ideas that have been disproven over and over and over again, but are being repackaged and presented to us as the next best thing. We're more vulnerable to a lot of things. So I'm doubling down on not being on social media this week specifically, because I know that my brain is not in the right place to be able to properly filter out the things that could get me off track. Does that make sense? So here's the shift that I want you to make. I want you to shift from saying, what does Instagram say? Or what does Twitter say? Or what does TikTok say? Into what is going to best serve my children. The answer to that question is almost always, flashcards best serve my children. Checking my children's math and make sure that they understand what they did wrong before moving on to the next lesson is best serving my children. What is best serving your children is never going to be on Instagram. So instead of allowing yourself to have endless options, you want to step into chosen constraints. You want to go from noise, which is exactly what you get on social media, into order. Okay, you want to go from scrolling on your Instagram feed to looking at your checklist and figuring out what still needs to be done for the day. Okay, instead of your phone being the default tool that you pick up, your clipboard with your checklist needs to be the tool that you pick up. The clipboard with the checklist is going to be the tool that actually helps you accomplish your goals, not your phone. Inputs lead to identity, which lead to outputs. So here's what you need to understand, Mom. Once your inputs are carefully curated and intentional, then your identity as the leader of your homeschool comes back online. Those inputs that you are carefully choosing, those books that you have carefully chosen to read that are helping to build your worldview of education, basically, those are going to be what create and build and strengthen your identity as the homeschool mother that you want to be. And then that better version of the homeschool mother that you want to be creates much better outputs. That is the cycle. That's the feedback loop that we want to be in. So now I want to give you a few guardrails for your week that will help you to build a much better input habit. So remember, your inputs are the things that the information that you are taking in. So right now you are participating in an input. I am inputting information into your brain. You need to decide if you want to keep me or if you want to toss me. Also, the books that you're reading, and I will put a list of fantastic resources for you in the description box. You do not have to read them, but it's what I'm reading now. It's what I've read over the past few years that has tremendously helped me. So I would suggest finding one and starting to read that. But here are some good guardrails that will help you to set better input habits. Number 1, no phone until the morning routine plus the first lesson are complete. Number 2, use paper for all of your school decisions. So use paper for your checklists, use paper for your own checklist. Even I know you have the Notes app. Like everybody has that. Don't use it though. It's too easy to just flip over to Instagram if you're picking up your phone every time you need to check something off. Number 3, one timed screened window for mom. Okay, so whenever you do get on your phone, you need to have a timer on for yourself. Number 4, a family walk after lunch or before dinner. Get outside. It is so beneficial. So those are some good guardrails to start with. It really will help so much if you implement all of those. They're easy. It just requires you to exercise some self-discipline over yourself in order to actually use them. Now, let's talk for just a minute about the traps that you need to avoid here. There's 2 ditches on either side of the road. You need to stay in the middle, okay? Don't fall into the ditch. The first ditch that I do not want you to fall into is that all or nothing perfectionist attitude. Okay, if you have a bumpy morning and you picked up your phone way too many times, that does not mean that the whole day is lost. Okay, reset yourself at lunchtime. Put your phone in a drawer and don't pick it back up until those children are in bed. You can still redeem the time. All is not lost. You do not need to be a perfectionist. Perfectionists are some of the people that get the least done in life. You need to be a person who is getting tremendous amounts of things done if you want to be a homeschool mom. So you cannot afford to waste the whole day because you had a bad start. The second ditch that I want you to avoid falling into is what I like to call a novelty relapse. Okay, this is getting back into that brain rot cycle. When something starts to feel like it's not working properly, instead of doing a complete overhaul of your system, you need to look at it with an analytical mind. You put your feelings in a drawer, put your feelings in the same drawer that your phone is in, okay, and shut the drawer. Look at it with an analytical mind and pick one thing that you think you could change about your schedule or about the way that you're presenting your information. Pick one thing and change that for the next 2 weeks. And then you're going to analyze again. Did that fix my problem, or is there still work that needs to be done? At the end of that 2 weeks, if there's still work to be done, then you pick one more variable to change. Okay, this is how you iterate. This is how you build the most successful schedule or the most successful homeschool that you are capable of building, by iterating one variable at a time. Okay, so do not do a whole overhaul. Do not ruin your whole day because you had a bumpy morning. Those are the 2 ditches, and I want you to avoid them. Okay, so that's the plan. If you follow the plan, you will be able to think so much more clearly and show up for your homeschool in a new way. If you feel like you need a little bit more help here, like I said at the beginning of this video, please check out my masterclass where I talk about how I had to rebuild from the ground up because I never had anything successful going. It takes you through my whole brain process essentially. So please check out that link. I'll also make sure to put the links for all of the good resources, the books that I'm reading or the books that I have read, in the description box below. And I hope this helps.